Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now April 10th of 2023. We're getting closer, by the way, to the middle point of 2023, which is only getting us closer to the further announcements that will be provided, by the way, by Disney and Lucasfilm at D23 later this year. That's really going to actually fulfill the entirety of the Star Wars roadmap by John, George, Dave, as well as other creators coming on board as well. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that there's a lot of things happening simultaneously between all of the Star Wars films and all of the Star Wars TV shows that are going to work hand in hand with each other, we also have a lot of non-canon material, such as, of course, Star Wars Visions Volume 2 launching, and a lot more to come as well on top of that. Now, when you look at everything related to Disney Star Wars and where it has been going, we know that Kathleen Kennedy has been getting involved in the Disney shakeup between different executives, some of which, by the way, that are loyal to her, others of which that are more loyal and lenient toward John and Dave's vision of Star Wars. But let's get into the most recent developments that's really not spelling the greatest future for the franchise, and how there might very well be a silver lining on top of this. So let's dive into the details about everything of what's going on within this Disney shakeup and what's really coming out of some of the executives getting fired left and right, or are in the process of getting fired left and right. So there's a lot of things happening with Kathleen Kennedy, and there has been for the past couple of weeks now. And basically, this is going to really create a big stir within the Star Wars community. Now, given that, of course, Kathleen Kennedy is still, to this day, having issues with the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, Disney recently held yet another meeting that may come across as very bad news for Star Wars fans. Recently, Disney executives got together and are beginning to get closer to an agreement to give Kathy Kennedy a second chance at Lucasfilm under one condition in order for her to stay at the company and some things Star Wars. And that this is all dependent on the success of Indiana Jones 5. Though the plan is not finalized just yet, and it will be by the beginning of May, Kathleen Kennedy is getting very close to getting a second shot to hold 50% of upcoming Star Wars projects if and only if Indiana Jones 5 proves to be wildly successful. This is said to be the plan that the executives are pushing for. Meanwhile, the other 50% of projects will be 100% led by both John and Dave, resulting in a diverse leadership of Star Wars projects. Let me stop here real quick. This is something that I think a lot of fans are going to resent, where basically 100% of projects won't be in the hands of John and Dave, all depending on the success of Indy 5. Now, I don't know about you guys, but why would the success of Indy 5 have anything to do with Kathleen Kennedy staying at Lucasfilm? Well, we talked about this a couple of videos back, and it all has to do with Disney trying to not give a bad image to Indiana Jones fans if this movie proves to be very successful, both box office-wise and fan reception-wise. And if it's in that case, and then they fire Kathleen Kennedy, they don't want to create a bad image like that. That's what some of the Disney executives are throwing at the wall right now, and some executives that are even not loyal to Kathleen Kennedy are beginning to agree with this approach. And so, guys, nothing is final just yet, but this is going to be made final by this May. They are going to decide, and it's not looking good. It looks like there's a good shot that depending on the success of Indy 5, Kathleen Kennedy could very well acquire 50% of Star Wars projects that will be grandfathered in to Lucasfilm for one whole year at minimum until her contract comes to a close by 2024. Regardless, there is a Lucasfilm change-up happening by Bob Iger. A lot of employees are getting fired and replaced. There is a cleaning up house phase being done by Bob Iger. So that's going to take over the course of 2 years. So moving on to the next big thing here, we already know that everything related to that is very skeptical for fans. You know, we know that a lot of fans have been very much on edge about how future shows are going to be pretty much, implemented into the franchise between John and Dave's work, Tony Gilroy's work, Kathleen Kennedy's The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, stuff around those lines. And even Kennedy confirmed at Celebration that basically, she was, very involved with Skeleton Crew. It's probably, one of her biggest projects yet, and how it's very inspired from E.T., from The Goonies, to Stranger Things, and stuff like that, and mixed with Star Wars. Moving on, though. However, something, of course, that may actually get fans riled up, most likely, is going to heavily dislike if this deal goes through by this May and Kennedy gets to stay at Lucasfilm until her contract comes to a close in 24. In the meantime, she will hold full creative control for 50% of Star Wars shows and 1 of every 3 Star Wars movies that are being developed. Executives are pushing and asking for a balanced flow of leadership to satisfy all types of fans that either love sequel trilogy lore or Legends lore coming back to life for the hardcore fans that John and Dave will be handling. This comes after the recent Disney shakeup and recent executive firings that have been taking place that past, of course, couple of weeks over at Disney. With Dana Brunetti, one of the Hollywood producers, still standing by to take over as president of Lucasfilm if this plan comes to fail, however, of course. Kennedy is also ready to take over 50% of projects if she gets to stay one last year at Lucasfilm in the meantime. This would, however, also still give Disney the liberty to fire Kennedy from projects at the flip of a dime as a producer at will, if need be, if things are not going well. So, we already know that Kathleen Kennedy does not care about the Star Wars fans, and she's made that openly clear to a lot of, people out there, to a lot of the Star Wars fandom out there, making it very apparent that the fandom does not matter to her. It's all about acquiring new fans and really diverting away from George Lucas's treatment of Star Wars. That's basically her approach. That's what she believes in. And it's unfortunate that that's what she believes in because, let's face it, George Lucas is the father of Star Wars. And I like to say that. I like to call him that because he is. He is the creator of this franchise. If it weren't for him, Kennedy would not have a job. Simply put, she would be doing something else now that's probably just as, badly driven through leadership purposes. Now, Bob Iger, by the way, this is a guy that I've heavily criticized over the years, and I'm still not in full agreement with his approach for even letting this be a discussion at all. If I were Bob Iger, I would have just convinced the executives and the board members as much as possible to just drop this overall proposal for Kathleen Kennedy to get a second chance, depending on Indy 5's success. I feel no matter how successful Indy 5 becomes, you gotta get the boot no matter what. I mean, it has to be done. So, anyways, on top of this, given that John and Dave are still in full creative power, regardless of all the shows that they acquired for the past year, which, by the way, are at least a dozen Star Wars shows, so that's good news at least, we have this to worry about what's going to happen after this May and Indy 5's success. So guys, fill me in below in the comments what you guys have to say about all of this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.